The mountain evening was quiet, the kind of peaceful silence that made every small sound feel important. Lady Arya Solon, a gentle human woman in her late 20s, walked along the rocky path behind her home. She carried a small lantern and a satchel filled with herbs she had gathered earlier. Arya loved exploring these mountains. She liked their calm air, the cold wind, and the soft whisper of pine trees that lined the valley. Arya was a botanist, but not a famous one. She lived simply, studying mountain plants and sending reports to small science groups in the nearby cities. Most people in the settlement knew her as the Herb Lady. She preferred that life, quiet, normal, predictable. But that night was not normal. As she walked toward a ravine she often visited, she felt the wind grow strangely cold, much colder than usual. It was as if winter had stepped into the valley early. Arya pulled her coat tighter and frowned. There was something unnatural about this cold. The ground beneath her boots felt crisp, like thin ice had formed on its surface. That was the first sign. The second sign came as a slow, deep rumble from the earth. At first, she thought it was thunder, but there were no clouds in the sky. She held her lantern higher and took a few steps forward. The rumble grew louder, then stopped all at once. The sudden quiet felt heavier than the cold air. Arya knew she should turn back home. Strange sounds at night were a warning in the mountains, but curiosity pulled her forward. She wanted to know what caused it. She wanted to understand. At the ravine, she froze. The ground had cracked open during the rumble, forming a narrow trench several meters long. The edges of the crack shimmered with frost, but it was with the frost cover that made her heart skip. Two large shapes, almost like huge statues, lay half buried in the ice. They were tall, long, and curved like sleeping beasts. The ice trapped them completely, but inside the frozen shells, she saw something that made her step closer with caution and awe. They were dragons. Not the kind found in children's stories, fire-breathing monsters guarding treasure, but ancient, elegant, otherworldly dragons. Their bodies were long and silver blue, their wings folded tightly against their sides. Even frozen, they looked noble and proud, like beings from old legends. Arya stared at them for a long moment. She was not afraid. Instead, she felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had always believed there was more to the universe than what humans saw. Now it seemed that belief had walked right into her world. But why were they here? Why frozen? And why now? She leaned closer and touched the ice. It was painfully cold, but beneath it she felt a faint warmth like a heartbeat. They're alive. She whispered. The wind answered with a soft howl. Arya's first thought was to alert the settlement, but she hesitated. She knew how the Empire treated unusual discoveries, especially extraterrestrial ones. They would take the dragons away for research. Or worse, they would see them as a threat. And these two, frozen and helpless, looked too weak to defend themselves. Arya swallowed hard. Something inside her said she should help them, even if it was risky, even if it did not make sense. With great effort, she gathered ropes and blankets from her satchel. She knew she could not move them alone. The dragons were far too large. But she had tools in her cottage, and there was a small anti-gravity platform she used for moving heavy equipment. If she modified it, maybe she could bring the dragons inside before the temperature dropped even more. It took nearly an hour to set everything up. Arya worked in silence, her breath visible in the icy air. Every movement was careful. Every sound felt large. When she finally activated the platform, it hummed softly and lifted the first frozen dragon, its shimmering body glowing faintly under the lantern light. She moved them one at a time, guiding the floating platform slowly toward her cottage. The journey was long and tiring, but she did not stop. Something guided her, an instinct, a feeling, a quiet understanding that this moment mattered. By the time she placed the second dragon inside her cottage, her hands were numb and her legs felt weak. She closed the door quickly, shutting out the cold night. The warmth of the cottage wrapped around her, but she remained tense. She had just brought two unknown alien creatures into her home. Arya set down her lantern, rolled up her sleeves, and went straight to work. She examined the dragons, checking their temperature, scanning the ice. and measuring the faint life signs inside. Her tools were basic, meant for plants, not extraterrestrial beings. But she used everything she knew. The ice around them was unusual. It wasn't natural frost. It resembled stasis ice, a form of preservation found only in rare scientific records from deep space research stations. It suggested the dragons had been asleep for a very long time, maybe centuries. She placed heaters around them to melt the ice slowly. To fast and the shock could harm them. To slow and they would remain trapped. As she worked, she spoke gently, even though she didn't know if they could hear her. "You're safe here," she whispered. "I'll do my best to help you." Hours passed. The ice thinned, cracked, and finally melted away. Steam rose from their bodies. A soft glow spread across their scales. Then, one of them moved, just slightly. Arya stepped back, her breath catching. The dragon's eye, deep silver with a faint light inside, opened. It did not open fully, just enough for her to see intelligence shining through. The dragon looked tired, old, but aware. Its gaze drifted toward Arya. Not threatening, not fearful, curious. "Do you understand me?" Arya asked softly. The dragon blinked once. Then a gentle sound filled the room like a deep echo mixed with wind. It was not words, but it felt like a greeting. The second dragon soon stirred as well. Its wings twitched, spraying droplets of melted ice onto the floor. Arya rushed to gently place blankets over both of them. They were too weak to move much. Their breathing was slow, steady, but strained. Arya fetched warm water and her best herbal mixture. She did not know if it would help dragons, but she hoped the warmth alone might bring comfort. She stayed awake through the night, checking on them, adjusting the heaters, and making sure they were stable. As the hours passed, she learned small things about them. When she spoke softly, their eyes followed her voice. When she brought warm water, they made a soft hum of appreciation. When she sat quietly beside them, they rested more peacefully. They trusted her, at least a little. Close to dawn, the larger dragon lifted its head just enough to look round the cottage. Through the cracked window, the first light of morning crept into the room. The dragon's gaze turned serious. It made a faint, low sound, one that carried warning. Arya did not understand at first. Then she heard it, a distant thud. Then another. Then many. She rushed to the window and looked outside. Her breath stopped. Rows of Imperial soldiers were moving through the trees. Their armor shone in the morning light. Their steps were heavy and coordinated. Drones flew above them, scanning the area, and they were coming straight toward her home. Arya felt her heart pound. She turned back to the dragons. Their eyes were open now, both alert despite their exhaustion. They knew the soldiers were coming too, and they were afraid. Arya whispered, "Don't worry. I won't let anyone harm you." But she wasn't sure how she could keep that promise. Not against an Imperial force. Not alone. Yet something inside her was clear. She had taken these dragons in. She had saved them, and she would protect them, no matter what came next. Outside, the sound of marching grew louder. Morning light slowly spread across the mountains, soft and pale. Normally, this was Arya Solin's favorite time of day. She loved watching the sunlight touch the trees, listening to the gentle sounds of birds, and breathing the fresh, cold air. But this morning was different. This morning, the peaceful valley felt heavy, filled with the sound of marching metal boots, humming drones, and the sharp voice of a military commander giving orders. Arya stood by her window with a nervous heart. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled the curtain back just enough to see outside. The forest that had always felt safe now looked like a battlefield. Imperial soldiers, dressed in dark blue armor with glowing chest symbols, were forming a wide ring around her cottage. She counted at least 20, then stopped trying as more arrived. Drones hovered above them like watchful insects. A transport vehicle landed nearby, kicking up dust and leaves with its engines. Arya swallowed hard. "They came so fast," she whispered. Behind her, the two dragons stirred. Although still weak, they sensed the danger clearly. Their silver-blue scales shimmered in the lantern light, and their long tails lay curled beside them. The larger dragon slowly lifted its head, its tired eyes focusing on the door as if expecting someone to burst in any second. Arya walked over to them and knelt between the two giant beings. "Please stay calm," she said softly. "I'll handle this. I won't let them hurt you." The dragons looked at her with quiet trust she hoped she could live up to. A loud mechanical voice echoed across the valley. "Lady Arya Solon, step outside immediately. You are ordered to comply with the Imperial Scientific Division." Arya closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and stood. She had no idea what she would say. She only knew one thing: she could not let the Empire take these dragons away. She walked to the door, hesitated, then opened it slowly. Outside, the bright morning sun made her blink, but the cold air felt sharper than usual. The soldiers turned toward her at once. Some pointed scanning devices at her. Others raised communication panels to record everything. A tall man stepped forward. His armor had golden markings, showing his rank. His expression was calm but strict. "Lady Arya Solon," he said, "I am Commander Relin of the Imperial Scientific Division. You have been detected performing unauthorized extraterrestrial revival activity." Arya tried to keep her voice steady. "I don't understand what you're talking about." Relin tapped a device on his wrist. A hologram appeared showing energy spikes from the night before. "Our sensors registered a stasis energy burst in this exact location," he said. "That type of energy is linked to advanced alien preservation structures. We demand access to your home for examination." Arya's heart thumped. She couldn't allow that. "I haven't done anything illegal," she said. "I only brought two injured creatures into my home. I didn't know what they were." Relin narrowed his eyes. "Creatures? Then you confirm there is extraterrestrial life inside?" Arya didn't answer. Saying yes would put the dragons in immediate danger. Saying no would be a lie, something she was never good at. The commander stepped closer. "You are required by law to surrender any alien organisms for Imperial research. Failing to comply can lead to detainment." Behind Arya, the dragons made a low hum, the same soft, whine-like sound from the night before. The sound wasn't aggressive, but it carried a feeling of deep worry. Relin seemed to notice. His eyes sharpened. "They are awake." Arya quickly stepped sideways, blocking the view of the door with her body. "They are weak," she said firmly. "They can barely breathe on their own. Please don't frighten them." "Frighten them?" The commander raised an eyebrow. These beings could be dangerous. They could possess unknown abilities. Arya felt a spark of anger. "They were frozen in ice and nearly dead. I helped them. That doesn't make them dangerous." Relin did not respond immediately. Instead, he turned to his soldiers and gave a hand signal. Several soldiers broke off and approached the cottage. Arya panicked. "No," she shouted. "You can't go inside without permission." The commander looked back at her. "We have authority to secure all extraterrestrial entities for public safety." Arya clenched her fists. "Not without proper rights documentation. This land is under civilian territory law. You need a higher-level clearance to force entry." Relin stared at her, surprised. "You know that law?" Arya nodded. Her father had been a legal advisor before he passed away. He had taught her many rules about land ownership and civilian rights. She never expected those lessons to help her protect dragons. The commander folded his arms. "Even with that law, your refusal can be overridden by executive command. But you don't have that command yet," Arya said quietly. The soldiers beside the door stopped. Relin sighed and motioned for them to wait. A drone flew down, projecting a scan of the cottage. "Life signs confirmed. 2 large entities. Non-human." Relin tapped the drone. "Prepare containment units." Arya stepped forward, blocking the path again. "Please listen," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "They are not harmful. They are scared. They need help, not chains." The commander frowned. "Compassion is admirable, Lady Arya, but the Empire cannot risk unknown species roaming free." "They aren't roaming anywhere," Arya replied. "They can barely move." Relin hesitated. For a moment, his strict expression softened. But then the communication panel on his wrist beeped urgently. He looked at the message. Then back at Arya. "The Emperor's Research Division has been notified. Reinforcements are on the way." Arya's stomach dropped. Reinforcements meant stronger units, harsher officers, and faster decisions. She needed time. She needed something, anything to stop them. Suddenly, a shout came from the distance. Arya turned and saw villagers walking toward the cottage. Men, women, and older people from the settlement. Some carried baskets, others tools, and a few held communication tablets recording the scene. The villagers whispered among themselves. I saw the soldiers marching. What's happening at Arya's home? Is she in trouble? One of Arya's neighbors stepped forward. It was old Mara, a kind woman who always bought herbs from Arya. She raised her voice. Why is the Empire surrounding our friend's home? The commander turned sharply. Return to your homes. This is official Imperial business. But the villagers didn't move. Instead, more arrived from the forest path. Arya felt a rush of hope. The Empire could ignore one person, but they could not ignore a crowd of witnesses. One young villager, Loran, stepped between Arya and the soldiers. Arya is a good person, he said. She helps everyone here. We won't let anyone harm her. Other villagers murmured in agreement. Arya felt warmth fill her chest. She had lived quietly in this valley for years, always helping others when she could. And now, in her moment of danger, the people she cared about stood with her. Relin frowned deeply. Civilians must not interfere. Old Mara lifted her tablet. We are not interfering. We are observing and recording. If you plan to break civilian rights, the entire province will know. Relin stiffened. The Empire disliked bad publicity, and the scientific division especially avoided public attention. Arya took a small breath and finally spoke again. Commander, please give me time. They are not a threat. Let me stabilize them. After that, we can discuss what to do next. Relin stared at her for a long moment. His eyes moved from Arya to the dragons inside the cottage, to the growing group of villagers. After a tense silence, he lowered his hand. Fine, he said. You have until midday. After that, I will require entry. Arya nodded quickly. Thank you. But, Relin added firmly, my soldiers will remain in position. Any attempt to move the creatures or escape will be considered disobedience. Arya agreed she had no other choice. The commander turned away, giving orders for a temporary perimeter camp to be set up. Arya stepped back inside her cottage and closed the door. She leaned against it, breathing shakily. The dragons looked at her with gentle, worried eyes. It's all right, she whispered. We have a little more time. I'll protect you. I promise. The larger dragon lowered its head beside her, almost as if understanding her fear. The smaller one made a soft, comforting hum. Outside, the sound of soldiers building their camp filled the valley. Arya knew the next hours would decide everything. The dragons had trusted her. Now she had to prove worthy of that trust, and somehow, she had to find a way to keep the Empire outside and the dragons safe before midday arrived. The morning sun climbed higher, casting warm light across the valley. But the warmth did nothing to calm Arya Solin's tense heart. Outside her cottage, the Empire's soldiers moved like a steady machine, building their perimeter camp, placing scanners on the ground, and setting up small shield towers. The once peaceful valley now felt like a silent fortress inside the cottage. Arya kept walking back and forth, checking the dragons again and again. The larger dragon's breathing had become smoother, and the smaller one even managed to lift its head a little. They were still weak, but they were alive, and they were trying to recover faster, as if they knew they did not have much time. Arya sat beside them and whispered, We need to think of something. They will come inside at midday. The dragons watched her with calm, thoughtful eyes. There was something in their expressions, something deep and ancient. It felt like they understood her fear and shared it. Suddenly, the larger dragon's eyes glowed faintly. A soft wave of warmth moved through the room. Arya felt calmness spread through her chest, and a gentle voice formed in her mind, not loud, not sharp, just a quiet echo. Do not fear. Arya gasped and sat up straight. The dragon lowered its head again, showing no danger, only peace. She whispered, You can speak. Inside my mind? The dragon blinked slowly, only a little. We are weak, but we can share thoughts with kind hearts. The voice was old, tired, but wise. Arya felt tears prick her eyes, not from fear, but from relief. She finally understood that these dragons were not simple creatures. They were intelligent beings with a past older than anything humans knew. She spoke softly. "The Empire thinks you might be dangerous." The dragon let out a faint hum. "We once guided young worlds, but that time has passed. We are the last of our kind." Arya felt her breath catch. "The last?" The dragon nodded. Double quotes. "We traveled to this world long ago, before humans built their first cities. Our mission was to share knowledge. But the Empire found our old ruins in space. They used our lost technology to empower themselves. They hunted us, fearing we would take it back." Arya felt anger rise in her chest. "That's why they're here. Not for safety, but for control." The dragon closed its eyes. "Your heart sees clearly." Arya stood and paced the room again. She had only hours before the commander returned. She needed a plan. Outside, more voices rose. Curious villagers were gathering again. Some brought food for Arya, others came to watch the soldiers, and a few began whispering about why the Empire had arrived. Arya stepped outside for a moment. Immediately, several villagers hurried to her. "Arya, are you all right?" Old Mara asked. "What do they want from you?" Loran added. "Did you find something dangerous?" Another villager asked. Arya looked at their worried faces. She felt a weight lift off her shoulders. They trusted her, and she trusted them. She took a breath and decided to speak clearly. "I found two beings trapped in ice last night," she said. "They were weak and cold. I brought them inside to help them." She kept her words simple, honest. "They are peaceful, but the Empire wants to take them." The villagers exchanged glances. Some were nervous, some were confused, but none looked angry at her. Old Mara touched Arya's shoulder. "We trust your judgment, child. If you say they are peaceful, we believe you." Loran stepped forward with a determined expression. "If the Empire tries to force you, we'll stand here again. We won't let them push you around." Other villagers nodded. Their unity surprised Arya and warmed her heart. But she knew the Empire would not be stopped by kindness alone. She returned inside. The commander watched her briefly from across the camp but did not approach. He seemed busy sending messages through his wrist panel, preparing for the midday decision. Arya closed the door quietly. "We may need help from humanity," she told the dragons. "Not just me, not just this valley. Something bigger." The larger dragon let out a soft hum. "Your people have strong hearts. They will listen if you speak with truth." Arya hesitated, then picked up her communication tablet. She opened a public broadcast channel. Her hand shook slightly. She had never spoken to so many people before, but she reminded herself of the dragon's trust and the trust of her neighbors. She pressed record. Her voice, though soft, carried strength. "My name is Lady Arya Solon," she began. "This morning, the Empire surrounded my home. They claim to protect public safety, but the beings inside my cottage are peaceful. They are weak. They were frozen and close to death. I helped them because they needed help." She paused, letting her words settle. "Life, no matter where it comes from, deserves dignity, deserves compassion. I ask everyone who hears this message to remember that kindness is not a weakness. It is our strength." She ended the broadcast and sent it across the province's public network. The dragons listened silently. After a moment, the smaller dragon lifted its head and lightly touched her hand with its nose, a gentle gesture of gratitude. Arya felt a wave of warmth from the contact. "You have courage." The dragon's voice echoed faintly in her mind. Time passed slowly. Outside, villagers gathered in larger numbers. Some brought chairs and sat near the cottage. Others set up small energy heaters for the group. A few even prepared warm drinks for everyone waiting. The soldiers looked uncomfortable. They expected a quick operation, not a peaceful crowd watching every move. Commander Relin stepped toward Arya's door again at last. He knocked firmly. Arya opened it just a little. "It isn't midday yet," the commander sighed. "I know, but I need to speak with you." Arya stepped outside cautiously and closed the door behind her. Relin kept his voice low. "Your broadcast reached the local capital. People are already asking questions. My superiors are pressuring me to act quickly." Arya crossed her arms. "I won't let you take them. They could hold valuable information." They hold knowledge. Not weapons. They could be a threat. They are peaceful. The commander rubbed his forehead, clearly frustrated. Why are you risking so much for them? Arya looked him directly in the eyes. Because they didn't ask to be hunted. Because they are alive and afraid. And because helping someone in need is the right thing to do. Her voice shook slightly, but her expression remained firm. Relin glanced toward the villagers, who watched closely. He lowered his tone even further. Lady Arya, this situation is bigger than both of us. The Emperor's research division will not listen to public pressure. They will come, no matter what. And when they arrive, they won't be patient like I am. Arya felt a chill. What will they do? Relin hesitated, then answered honestly. They will take the dragons. By force, if needed. Arya clenched her fists. Then I'll keep standing in their way. Relin gave her a long look. Something in his stern expression wavered, perhaps respect, perhaps doubt. You are brave, he said quietly. But bravery can bring trouble. Arya straightened her back. Then let trouble come. I won't betray them. The commander stepped away, troubled, and returned to the soldiers. Arya went back inside, her heart beating fast. She knelt beside the dragons again. They're coming soon, she whispered. We need time, or something powerful enough to change their minds. The larger dragon slowly lifted its head. Its silver-blue eyes glimmered softly. Then it is time we show them the truth, the voice echoed. Arya blinked. What truth? The dragon's scales glowed faintly brighter than before. A small, gentle pulse of light spread across the room, like the soft glow of a sunrise. We came not to harm, but to help your world grow. We carry knowledge that can guide humanity toward peace. Arya stared in awe. Then why didn't you tell them? Because the Empire seeks power, not harmony. But your people, ordinary humans, have hearts that can choose differently. Arya suddenly understood. The Empire feared the dragons not because they were dangerous, but because they carried wisdom the Empire could not control. She placed a hand on the dragon's warm scales. Then we'll stand together. Humans and dragons. Outside, the villagers gathered even closer, forming a quiet shield around the cottage. Inside, the dragons prepared to reveal something the Empire had never expected. A message, a truth, a spark that might change everything. Midday approached slowly, yet every minute felt heavy. Arya Solon stood in her small cottage with two ancient dragons beside her, both glowing softly with a gentle, peaceful light. Outside, the villagers had formed a quiet shield of support. Soldiers stood at their posts, unsure of how to move forward with so many witnesses watching. And at the center of it all, Commander Relin waited for the exact moment when his orders allowed him to force entry. Arya could feel the pressure in the air. She took a deep breath and placed a hand on the smaller dragon's warm scales. Is there really no other way? She whispered. The larger dragon lifted its head. Its deep silver eyes shimmered like morning light on water. There's one way. The ancient voice echoed gently in her mind. A truth your world must hear. A truth the Empire cannot hide once it is known. Arya frowned. What truth? The dragon slowly unfolded one of its wings, careful not to disturb the small objects in the cottage. Its scales glowed brighter, still gentle, still warm. Light spread like soft waves, touching the walls, the floor, and Arya's clothes. We are the keepers of harmony, the voice continued. Our kind guided young civilizations long ago not by ruling them, but by helping them understand unity. Arya listened carefully. Your empire rose quickly because they discovered fragments of our lost knowledge. They built great machines from it, but they ignored the wisdom that was supposed to shape those machines. Arya understood. They used the power, but not the purpose. The dragon bowed its head slightly. Yes. Arya felt her heart tighten. She knew the Empire's hunger for control had brought fear into many places across the land, but she had never known the true origins of their strength. The dragon's glow softened. We came to finish what our ancestors began, to share the part of our knowledge that teaches peace, not power. Arya looked toward the door. If you tell that to the soldiers, will they believe you? Perhaps not the soldiers, the dragon said, but the people watching. They will. Arya nodded slowly. Then we must show them. She turned toward the door, but the dragon spoke again. Arya Solon. She looked back. We are strong in spirit, but our bodies are old. We cannot reveal our full message without your help. Arya stepped closer. Tell me what I must do. The dragon touched its nose gently to her forehead. A warm light enveloped her mind, soft, calm, like the glow of sunrise after a long night. She felt no pain, only clarity. Images flowed through her thoughts, ancient stars, peaceful worlds, young civilizations learning to grow without fear, and a message made of kindness, courage, and unity. When the light faded, Arya opened her eyes. She felt different, not stronger in body, but clearer in purpose. The dragons looked at her with trust. You now carry our message. Share it when the time comes. Arya nodded firmly. I will. Outside, the commander's voice suddenly rang out. Lady Arya Solon, it is now midday. You are required to allow entry. The villagers tightened their circle around the cottage. Old Mara stepped forward with surprising courage. You will not harm her, she shouted. Relin stepped closer, his expression troubled. Move aside. I do not wish to force civilians, but this operation must continue. Loren raised his tablet. We're recording everything. If you break civilian law, the entire province will know. More villagers lifted their tablets to record the scene. Relin's jaw tightened. You are making this harder. Arya opened the door and stepped out slowly. The villagers turned to her, worried. The soldiers raised their weapons slightly, unsure of her next move. Arya lifted her hands calmly. Please, she said. Everyone stay peaceful. There is something you need to hear. Commander Relin looked confused. What are you doing? Arya stepped into the open space between soldiers and villagers. She spoke loudly, clearly, so everyone could hear her. I help to beings who were frozen and helpless. They are peaceful. They mean no harm. They came not to attack or control, but to share wisdom that could guide humanity to a better path. The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. Relin frowned. Arya, your words cannot change imperial orders. Arya held her tablet up and let everyone see what the Empire is trying to hide. She touched a button. The hologram from the dragon's shared memory filled the air above her, bright, beautiful, impossible to deny. Images of ancient galaxies. Glowing dragons flying between young worlds, teaching harmony to civilizations just beginning to grow. Planets filled with life and peace. Technology used not for war, but for balance. The villagers gasped softly. Even some soldiers stepped back in awe. Relin stared, stunned. What is this? Arya spoke calmly. This is their history. They guided young worlds with wisdom, not fear. The Empire took fragments of their old technology long ago, but they never understood the true purpose behind it. She lowered the hologram. The dragons came to guide us, to show us how to grow without hurting each other. For a moment, the valley was silent. Then old Mara spoke softly. If what she says is true, we should listen. Loren added, the Empire has no right to take peaceful beings away. Not after seeing that. A few soldiers hesitated, looking unsure. Some even lowered their weapons. Commander Relin stepped forward slowly. His voice was quieter than before. Lady Arya, what exactly are these beings asking of us? Arya smiled gently. Nothing. They only wish to share knowledge if humanity chooses to accept it. They don't want power. They don't want control. They only want peace. Relin stared at her for a long moment. Then he looked toward the villagers and finally toward the sky, where more drones approached in the distance. The Emperor's envoy will arrive soon, he said. If this is the truth, they must see it too. Arya nodded. Then let them see. Within minutes, a large imperial ship descended, its engines humming like thunder. High-ranking envoys stepped out, dressed in elegant uniforms. They expected a crisis. They expected resistance. They expected fear. But what they found instead was a peaceful crowd, a determined woman, and two ancient beings glowing gently inside a cottage. Arya stepped forward once more. You may speak with them, she said, but you must show respect. They are not objects. They are guests. The envoy leader hesitated and then nodded. Inside the cottage, the dragons lifted their heads as the envoys entered. Their glow was peaceful, not aggressive. Their eyes held ancient wisdom, not threat. The envoys looked at each other, unsure how to react. The larger dragon's gentle voice echoed softly, reaching every mind in the room. We come with peace. We offer knowledge, but only if your world chooses harmony. One envoy whispered, "This is beyond anything we expected." Arya stood beside the dragons, her voice steady. "Choose peace. Choose unity. Choose a path better than fear." The valley was quiet. The Empire could not deny the truth, not with so many witnesses, not with the dragon's message so clear. After long discussion, the envoys agreed to form a peaceful alliance. The dragons would share their teachings under protection, not as prisoners, but as honored guests. Commander Relin bowed slightly to Arya. "You changed everything," he said quietly. "Your courage moved an entire world." Arya smiled. "I didn't do it alone." She looked at the villagers, who smiled back with pride. She looked at the dragons, who lowered their heads in gratitude. And as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky with warm colors, Arya felt hope rise in her heart. The world had changed because a human woman chose kindness over fear, because two ancient dragons trusted her, and because ordinary people stood together for what was right. Arya Solon became the official human representative to the dragons, helping build a bridge between humanity and the last of an ancient, peaceful species. And together, they began a new chapter in the story of Earth, one filled with wisdom, unity, and hope.